When you verify of the identity and you manipulate it, you change it and make it look like the other side, okay, using your identities and algebra. So it's usually best to pick the more complicated looking side and try to see if you can make it look like the simpler side. So in this case, the more complicated side, the more complex side is right here. So you should start with that and see if you can turn it into cosine x using your identities. So I'm just going to recopy this. So alright, so just recopying what I just put a box around. We have cotangent x sine x. And in the end, I want to see if I can get it to be cosine x. So a very common strategy is to rewrite everything in terms of sine and cosine. So you look at cotangent, and you know that cotangent is the same thing as cosine x over sine x. Okay? It's important that you have memorized that if you didn't already know that. Alright, tangent is sine over cosine, and cotangent is cosine over sine. It's reciprocal. Anyway, and then I'm just bringing down the sine x. Okay, and then you might notice that the sine x on the right and the sine x in the denominator, they would cancel each other out. And then that would give you cosine x, which is what we wanted. So that's how we would verify the identity. But the question is, which one of these basic identities did we use along the way? And well, there was one that we used right here. Alright, the fact that cotangent x is the same thing as cosine x over sine x. That is an identity. Cotangent equals cosine over sine. We made that substitution. And that is option B right here. Cotangent is equal to cosine over sine. That's what we did from this step to this step. So that's why the answer to number 1 is going to be B. Real quick, before I end basic identities written down. Cosecant is the reciprocal of sine. Okay, let's see. Secant equals the reciprocal of cosine. Cotangent is the reciprocal of tangent. And while we're at it, tangent is the same thing as sine over cosine. Okay, make sure you know these basic identities. Now there's one more I think I'll throw in that's called the Pythagorean identity, because it's really based on the Pythagorean theorem. You know how the Pythagorean theorem goes a squared plus b squared equals c squared? Well, with trig functions, that would become sine squared theta plus cosine squared theta is equal to 1. So write down these 5 identities and have them with you always when you're taking a quiz or a test. Okay, one more thing real quick. Tangent is sine over cosine, so the reciprocal of that is cosine over sine. Okay, so you'll see this version of cotangent more often. And in fact, that's the version that showed up in this very problem. So make sure you have it written down.